Welcome to the empowering world of the Ladies Who Lead podcast, where brave souls share their remarkable journeys of venturing beyond their comfort zones to craft lives filled with passion and purpose. She said no to Oprah. Yes, Oprah. Out of fear, self-doubt, and not feeling ready. But what she did next, that's the real story. Today we're talking about reinvention, breaking limiting beliefs, and finally choosing yourself, no matter your age. Today I talked to Kim Costa on the Ladies Who Lead podcast. Hi, I'm so glad you're here at the Ladies Who Lead podcast, and today I'm honored to have my guest, Kim Costa. She is a top 5% realtor in Atlanta, Georgia, and she's a creator of the Wheelhouse Method, born from two pivotal leaps that defied fear and comfort. After 27 years as a small business controller in residential construction, Kim leaped into real estate in 2017 at age 50, building a top 5% practice and expanding into TV hosting, American Dream TV, podcasting, and authorship with her book, Live in Your Wheelhouse, launching March 2026. So by the time this podcast is on, it is in full swing. She's living proof that it's never too late to reinvent yourself. And I love that message. Turn your biggest mistakes into your greatest gifts and build a life aligned with your deepest purpose. Welcome, Kim.
Thank you so much for having me, Lisa. I'm really happy to be here.
I love that. First of all, top 5% realtor. That's huge. And Atlanta, Georgia is a big city. So that is huge.
Big market.
Congratulations.
There are,
Great
job.
Oh
gosh, there are more than 10,000 realtors here. So I don't think about that very often, but since you said that, it made me think about it.
Yeah, it's a huge accomplishment. And there's a lot that we're going to unpack here about where everything came from, what happened. You have led a very interesting life. And truly, even whenever it is that you find what your true calling is in life and what you really enjoy doing, whatever age it is, just relish and celebrate it. That's what I say.
Wise words.
Yes. So I always like to start back when you were little Kim, a little kid, when you were growing up. And I asked really what experience or relationship or person in your life really influenced your direction as an adult?
Well, I would definitely have to say both of my parents. My mom was a school teacher for quite a long time, but then she got into human resources after switching to become a secretary when the recession of the 70s hit. And, we had two houses, we had moved from Pennsylvania. And my dad was always involved with human resources. So labor dispute negotiations at first, and then he moved into human resource directorship. So I used to sit at dinner and listen to their conversations about this person's working in their wheelhouse or this person's not working in their wheelhouse. We had to let them go. And so that just started the whole conversation in my brain about certain people are meant to do certain things or excel at or set up to excel at certain things in their life. And then my dad and my mom would read quite a bit, but my dad would have mostly business books, like What Color is Your Parachute? And that's an old one. And like all the like self-building, because he was in the people business. And so that really started me off thinking about what am I supposed to do? Although I was kind of late to the table with being so fascinated, I took a couple wrong turns, which we'll talk about later. But it was really impressed upon me from a very early age that people are a valuable resource and that we need to do what we can to help them. And also that certain people are meant to do certain things.
That's such forward thinking by your parents.
Yes.
Because even to this day, I have seen it, and I know people even preach it, some business coaches that work with executives. And I was so impressed one time I went on an interview and they said, I try and put people in positions of what their strengths are. And I was like, oh, that's so cool. Now, unfortunately, there wasn't an opening at that time. That was okay.
Yeah.
It wasn't meant to be for me. But just the fact when I heard that come out of that executive's mouth, I thought, okay, this is a good company. Every executive should actually value what a person does really well, what's in their wheelhouse,
Right.
in order to put them in a position where they're going to excel because you want people to excel. You want yourself to
That's
excel.
right.
So
Good for
understanding what
everybody.
you do best is like super important. I know
Yes.
I've a little woo woo, but human design
Yes.
is something that I've gotten into, and that explains also what your strengths are. So
Absolutely.
understanding that is really important. I know it's something newer, but understanding what that is all about will help you in this journey too. But I know you have this all figured out. So we're going to go back into you were a very athletic person. I know
Hmm.
that. We talked golf, horseback riding, running, but those experiences led to some difficult times. And your childhood experience, like we just heard, which was a great thing with your parents. But what else did you experience that kind of crafted your mindset? We talked a bit about that in our last call.
So when I was younger, you mean?
Yeah.
You know, I told this story recently. I think I was a tomboy when I was little, or I became a tomboy. My mom always dressed me in dresses, and I remember going off to kindergarten with a pretty blue dress and some little white socks and those little shoes with the buckle, the cute little thing.
Oh, yeah.
Very cute. Oh, and I was very, tall, blonde-headed, tow-headed young girl going off to school for the first time with her neighborhood friends. And I came home with a torn dress. I loved to run on the playground. And that's me. I'm a free spirit. I'm a grounded, free-spirited person, if there is such. But I recall being in kindergarten, and I was a pretty good athlete, and I was fast. I had long legs and I was tall for my age. And so the coach set us up to run the 50-yard dash. Do you remember doing all that when you were younger?
Yeah, I wasn't very good though. I had short
Oh,
legs.
we all have our talents. I was not meant to be a gymnast. So thank goodness for those folks. Um, but anyway, so he set up the line for the 50-yard dash and we all started running. And I was like, I'm going to go for it. I want to win. We'll see if I win or not. And so I crossed it. I think I got like a 9.6, whatever that was back then. 9.6 sticks in my head for a 50-yard dash for like a 6-year-old. So I waited and some girlfriends gathered around me and I wasn't going to play with them. I said, I want to see who wins because right now I'm winning. And so he got to the end and no, sorry, I was in 9.5. And then this little boy crosses the line and he called like somewhere along the way and he calls out a 9.6. But at the end, he said, okay, the little boy won, even though I was faster than him. And that always stuck in my head about, oh my gosh, well, he did not want a girl to win at the time. This was the 70s, like
Hmm.
mid
Hmm.
70s. So that he just did not want a girl to win. And that got my ire up a little bit about I want to be me. And maybe this manifested later in life too. I can run a business and I can play a good golf game and I can write a book uh and I could be a good real estate agent and all the things. So I think that's another that kind of set me up to try to break down barriers for people who weren't allowed to be themselves.
See, and that's like putting a little fire under you.
Put a little fire in my belly that appeared
Yeah.
much later in life. Because I
Yeah.
just kind of went along with, okay, I'll do that because we need someone to run the accounting in the business, even though I'm a creative who likes people. I don't want to, but so it needs to be done, so I'll do it. Okay, that's what needs to happen, so I'll do it. Okay, yes, the boys are playing sports. I'll sit in the stands and watch, and I'll cheer them on. And so I think that set me up, and I'm not mad about it. It was just cultural. And so, but I think times have changed. And so, why can't women run businesses and eliminate barriers to success? So, I think that was also a very formative. I have three older brothers. So, I spent much of my childhood chasing around. They're like 6'4", 6'5", and then 6'1", very athletic. I could never catch them. So, I think that put a fire in my belly to help women, especially live up to their full potential and eliminate barriers that they've either put on themselves or
Mm.
that have been placed on them along the way.
Yeah, because when someone says that and something like that happens, it could have easily put a limiting belief inside your head
That I
that
should
you
just tone
can't.
it down.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
I did tone it down for many decades.
Yeah. So that's because a lot of us take those and we experience something and we become either scared or fearful of accepting either a good accomplishment or an opportunity that comes our way.
Right.
You have a story about Oprah Winfrey.
Oh, yes, I do. So here's a self-limiting belief I had is that, or a barrier that I imposed upon myself a little bit. So when I was, let's see how I was in my young 30s, and I had built a beautiful home with my former spouse called Clarity Farm, and I'm a golfer, but I was riding horses. I am a creative extrovert, but I was doing accounting for a family business. I again am an extrovert. I was living on a remote farm. And so I was kind of living out of alignment. And I was like, oh, everyone wants to ride horses. That's what we do in this town. It's like the thing to do. I had a beautiful horse farm, so I started riding horses. But I'm really not a horseback rider. I'm a golfer and a yogi and all those. I'm very grounded. I like to be grounded.
Hmm.
But I was up on a horse. I don't like to scuba dive. I don't like to jump out of planes. I probably shouldn't have been up on a horse. Not my thing. So I broke my back riding that horse really badly. And once I finally recovered, and the doctor said to me, "You must have an angel on your shoulder. You shouldn't be walking." So I was walking, but in a walker and in pain and all the things. I went home. People were taking care of my kids, and I wrote the Oprah Winfrey Show and won the essay contest talking about friendship, and my friends had helped me with my kids and dinners and all that. And so I proceeded because I couldn't take care of the farm or myself and I was in pain and in a walker. I told the Oprah Winfrey Show, "No, you may not come to my house." And not, I love to write. So wouldn't that have been fantastic to have been declared, here's the winner of the essay contest? But I didn't. I told the show not to come. And so I placed that barrier upon myself because I did not want to be exposed for just, the book that the essay was about a woman who was not happy in her home. And I did not want to be exposed as such. I only
Mm.
started reading the book after I wrote and submitted the essay. And I just was so far out of alignment in so many ways that I ruined a perfectly wonderful chance to be recognized, A, for my writing, B, for my beautiful home, and C, for my friendships. Um,
Wow. And
right.
I'm saying this and really because I can completely relate
Yeah.
when I was younger and the fear of either people not liking me or, different types of fears
Right.
possibly.
Right.
I was
Millions of people
definitely,
judging.
oh God, yes. And I definitely was not being my authentic self because I didn't think
Yes.
people would like me if I was on my authentic self. So I had opportunities to go and meet people that I really idolized. And since then, I've actually met certain people and I was able
Mhm.
to go to where I could meet them. And I said, no, I didn't go.
Yeah.
I just stayed home. And I had to do a lot of forgiving of myself too, because
Hmm.
when you do those things, forgiving yourself is actually one of the most difficult things. It's even
Hmm.
harder than forgiving others. So you have to go through that period. But as a result of everything that's happened, because you were in a CPA,
Hmm.
how did that transition to what you do today in real estate? There's a
Yeah.
gap here that we're missing, and that
Well,
takes a lot of courage. So I would love to hear
Yeah.
that.
And well, here's the funny thing. I was not actually a CPA. I did not have an accounting degree. I did not pass any accounting tests. I was a self-taught accountant because we needed somebody to create the financials and submit the taxes and pay the payroll and pay the subcontractors and do the job costing for a construction business that I was never trained to do. And so I figured out, with the help of the accountant that was doing the books, how to create these financials to submit taxes and sign all the documents that needed to be signed to keep the business running because we had to put food on the table and pay our subcontractors and provide luxury swimming pools for people in Atlanta. 1,500 over the years of them, and so I just did what I had to do the show had to go on. So I trained myself. I had a marketing degree. I went back and got human resource development, most of the masters, but my daughter was born with a rare neurological issue. And so I had to take a couple of years off. And by the time I went back to finish my master's, the program had disappeared. And so I could never, I was like 10 hours away. And then my first child and took 2 years off of school thinking, what kind of master's program would disappear? But it did. So I mean, I've most of a master's.
But isn't it kind of a blessing in disguise because it really
Yeah,
wasn't what you ended up
not at the
wanting?
time.
Yeah.
Well, the human resource development classes introduced me to personality theory and development of people. And that is what I write about now. So it was a blessing. I didn't go into that as a career because I'm using it now in a later career as a main piece of what I talk about is developing not your job around what you're supposed to be doing, but your entire living environment should
Mm.
be supporting who you are supposed to be. So it's not just your career. That's one of the spokes. That's one of the eight spokes. But it's also who do you let in your home? Who do you surround yourself with that sees you and supports you? That's one of the four M's, which is a foundational piece. But then there's also spirituality. What type of spiritual practice do you have? Is it with people? Are you extroverted, introverted? What lights you up? Do you want to be in nature? Do you want to go to a huge celebratory music thing? So what is it that makes you happy as your individual person? So that set me up for this way of thinking that's unique in the world of real estate.
When did you, and we'll get really more into those four M's for
Yes.
self-discovery, but how long did it take you? When did you actually reach a point to say, okay, sorry, this life is just not my authentic self. I need to make a
Totally.
change.
Well, gosh, about 12 or 13 years ago now. Um, I really just wasn't happy. It was like I was kind of flat. My children were leaving for college, and I was like, what am I going to do now? I've been identified as a mom and an accountant for so long, but the mom piece was not going away. We always have our children, but the day to day was going away, and there was a huge void there. And I knew that I was a creative at heart, and I knew that I had passed. And then I also went back and got design training, interior design training, thinking I could leave the business to do that. Again, a crazy thing happened. Someone embezzled because I had my second child and someone embezzled like $60,000 from the company while I was out having a baby. So I never could quite get out of that accountant role to do what I felt passionate about. And I stayed stuck in that accountancy controller role for 27 years
Yeah.
and never got to do all that creative stuff I wanted to do. And so that just, I hit a certain point where nothing in my life was aligned. My relationship was failing with my previous spouse. And now he and I are both happily remarried. I wish them well, things, fine. But just it was just feeling very flat. My whole life was.
Yeah.
And so it was just a matter of who am I? Let's start with who am I and what have I been doing that I shouldn't be doing, which is many things. And what am I not doing that lights me up? And that was writing, design, working with people, creating homes, um, and telling stories.
So that led to the book. And
Yes.
and how interesting that it came back to your dad saying, "Oh, it wasn't in their wheelhouse." And so
Yes.
you came up that
Yes.
wheelhouse came into your mind. I love that.
Yes.
And the focus is on breaking free from limiting beliefs and taking
Hmm.
control of your life. It's like there's no excuses.
Hmm.
Again, this is a lot of around the work that I do. I do it a little bit differently.
Hmm.
However, it is about breaking free. There's a huge freedom when you release those limiting beliefs and
It,
feelings about
yes.
yourself.
Yes.
So explain how the idea from the book was birthed, and then
Yeah.
let's get into those four M's for self-discovery. Let's really get
Sure.
into those. Yeah, that framework.
Wonderful. Thank you. So it came about because I knew I didn't want to do accounting anymore. I literally had a headache in the left side of my brain, which is where the logical side is, where you do your accounting work. I just had a headache all the time. And I was tired, when you're not full of life because you're just not aligned. So I hired a coach and I took a personality test because I remember back in the day, start with who the person is. So I took a
Mhm.
personality test. I'm an ENFP, which is the same as like Mark Twain, Charles Dickens, Sandra Bullock, all the creative actors and writers that tell a story. And so I thought, oh gosh, well, I'm certainly not supposed to probably be an accountant. So let's start looking at what I should be. I've always loved homes and I've been in the residential construction business and I've created wonderful homes that even Oprah show wanted to come see. And so let's do what I've always wanted to do, and that is like work in creating homes. And so I started to, I verified with my coach at the time that I would be suited for this work. And then he said, let's start to make those changes for you. Fill out this wheel of life diagram and tell me where you're at in your life in finance, career, spirituality, romance, friends and family, environment, um, health, and finance. So every quarter, as I was changing my life, I would fill out this wheel of life as I'm studying to become a realtor, I'm doing this. And so I found myself changing homes as my life was changing. And then when I started helping people with real estate, I started categorizing their moves into, oh, that's a career finance move. They just got a huge promotion. They have a ton more money and they need to be closer to the airport or to the headquarters. So they're moving for those two reasons. But what about the other eight? And then someone's getting married and having babies. That's a family and friends move, and environment because perhaps they need more bedrooms or a yard for the dog and they can't live in the high rise condo anymore with the one bedroom because their family's expanding. So I started to and so I thought, oh, this is a process here. So the next 7 years, I just started asking questions in each of the areas and compiling a list of questions that one might ask themselves as they're moving to, because the real estate market went nuts and it was very busy. And 82% of everyone who bought a home in 23 and 24 has major regrets. Um, and so I started saying, well, this is not good for our industry and for the people who are living in these homes. So maybe this is a process that people can use to make sure they up level all these areas of their life while becoming more authentic, like living more authentically. And so that's how it all happened.
Wow. And I can see where delving more deeply into someone's authenticity
Mm.
will help you to sell and or buy the right house for them in the right
Yes.
place with the right amount of bedrooms and all kinds of stuff.
Yeah.
That
Yeah.
would be what would make you more successful even as a real estate agent, let alone helping so many people really be in touch with their authentic self.
Yeah.
So what are the four M's? You kind of
Okay.
touched a little bit
I
about it. Yeah.
did. So that's the missing piece. So in the middle of picture a house diagram. It's got a basement or a foundation. So in that foundation are the four M's. And then up above on the living levels, like how you actually live your life, are those eight areas that I just spoke of.
Okay.
So, but below that, if the four M's are out of place, it's kind of like having a crack in your foundation. The rest of the house is going to lean a little bit, and there's going to be cracks in the doorways, and so the house is going to feel off.
Yes.
So the four M's are myself. Who am I? What's my personality? What are my values? What gifts were I given? And then that brings us to the second M, which is mastery. What have you mastered of the gifts that you've been given? Because that is shown to be joyful when you're working in that zone. It's shown, when I write, I'm on another planet and I'm so happy. Or if I'm speaking with people about frameworks and things, I love it so much. I'm working in my zone of genius. Accountancy was not in my zone of genius. I was competent. I was like two levels down. It was nowhere near what I should have been doing. So that's mastery. And then with those gifts, what's your mission in life? Who are you helping? And then the last M is mates. Who sees you for who you are and supports your mission? So are they supporting you or are they sabotaging you? So that kind of goes like, who do you let in your home? Who do you keep in your home? Who do you surround yourself with that up levels your life?
I love it because it's very simple
Hmm.
but yet it really covers everything that you should know and keep in alignment in your life. And you
Hmm.
should really think about it. I mean, I have
Yes.
to say, as women, we go through life, and you and I both know you went through many years where we just didn't prioritize ourselves and we didn't think
That's
about
right.
ourselves. What do I want? What is it
Yes.
that I want to do? What is in alignment with me?
Hmm.
And both mates and what we did for a living and just
Hmm.
everything. And it affects everything and every decision in our life, right? That's why we should know our values, which these, I have to say, the four M's are very much based on what your values are, right?
Hmm.
You've got it in certain categories, but you're really creating and understanding what your values are. So that's
Sure.
really important to go in life.
Hmm.
Um, do you have like a story? I know you, I think you do some speaking also, but even one of your real estate agent clients, a story where someone had a real life impact by following your framework or reading your book.
Hmm.
I'd love to hear that.
Sure. So, I had a client, and I work with a lot of men and women. I'm working with younger folks and midlife folks, and I have an 89-year-old client right now. So all stages, but I would love to catch the young people before they make bad decisions, and
Yeah.
get stuck for 30 years.
Yeah.
So the best story I have really is a fella who was divorced and chose like a family style home to stay in the school district, so the kids that were going back and forth between houses could continue on as with their life as much as possible with the disruption. So, but that had come to pass. The children did wonderfully. He did a fantastic job. They're grown and married and living elsewhere now with the grandchildren and things like that. And now this fellow is living in like a family style neighborhood and a little bored, right? And so we he and a lot of maintenance in that larger home. And then the people surrounding him were younger with families, and he'd be out cutting the yard seeing them have fun with the families. And he was like, "What am I doing in the family neighborhood with the big house when I really just kind of want to travel and push the easy button and not be cutting my yard every weekend?" So we found him a nice attached home, which is like a condo or townhome. So no maintenance really. Somebody else maintains everything. Lock and leave, walk to dinner, meet some friends, go for coffee, and then travel. And so now I see him, instead of doing all this maintenance on a big home, he's out traveling, seeing not only his kids and grandchildren, but all his college friends, extended family, old buddies, at games and things like that. And I get these wonderful emails full of photos of him having a good time instead of, stuck in a home that was from a past life that he sacrificed and raised his children beautifully, but now it's his time.
Yeah. Oh,
Yeah.
that's a great story. That's a
So
great
that
story.
was a family and friends move, because now we're an empty nester. So that area had changed for him. And now he needs to get away to see family and friends, not stay in a home that has a lot of maintenance. Financial going great. And so, taking the money from that large home and investing it, and just living a whole different lifestyle. So, going around, um, you know, into retirement. So lots of free time. Let's go travel.
Yeah, all those
Yeah.
things, all those areas in life, the
Hmm.
numbers, if you were to rate each one,
Yeah.
definitely improved by making such
Yeah.
and understanding why he was feeling out of place.
Yes. And
Having that
bored,
conversation with you.
a
Yeah.
little bored, perhaps I'm speaking for, um, lonely because, passing the kids' rooms
Yeah.
and they're not here. And,
Yeah.
let's just go, let's go have fun. Yeah.
Yeah. And we'll be right back. You show up for everyone. You hold it all together, but when it comes to advocating for you, confidence suddenly disappears and you stop prioritizing your well-being. Sound familiar? I'm Lisa, emotional transformation coach with Ladies Who Leap Coaching. And I can take 20 minutes instead of 20 years to remove the negative inner chatter and bring you to a place of deep self love and emotional freedom. My Power Leap Breakthrough program changes everything: better jobs, loving relationships, and a deep reconnection to yourself. If something in you knows it's time to change how you live your life, Then let's talk. Go to ladieswholeap.com, click on the Let's Connect button, and leap into the woman you truly are. Now, back to the show. And I'm right, you are also a podcast host.
I am. So the same name as my book, Live in Your Wheelhouse. Yes,
And what is the concept? Do you interview people? Do you talk
I
about
will
the
be.
framework?
I'm right now I'm talking about the framework as the book's being launched, just to give a background before, because it's the busy season, people are moving. I wanted to present the frameworks before the book came out to help people. And then after the book comes out, I'll start to interview experts in each of the 8 areas. And
Mm.
then also the 4 M's so that people can, you know, really apply some of these theories to themselves, or like apply just a couple of key takeaways to just one, either that podcast 1%, or I think it's 10% happier. But if you just do a little bit at a time, you're going to up level your lifestyle. And so
I
there are
always,
tips for that.
yeah, and I always say
Yeah,
if someone even is affected by one thing that
yes,
is said on a podcast, then the job is done because
that's right.
you want to be able to help people. And if it's just that one little thing,
Mm-hmm.
so we do, we have bad days.
Mm,
And I like to have my guests share who you lean on
mm.
for support and for those days because I want everyone to understand that it's just normal to get and seek help.
Absolutely,
Yeah.
completely. So my husband Rocky, number one supporter. We got married almost 5 years ago. We
Mm.
live in a cute cottage that is perfect for us, close to going out to dinner, but and someone else maintains it, so it fits us in all our great ways. So him, my mom, she's 89, Carol. She is always my number one or two supporter, with Rocky. And I have a large extended family, brothers, sister-in-laws, a great group of friends who I wrote the Oprah show about. They're called the Yayas after the movie. Um, and yeah, and then my fellow realtors, we go to dinner and we talk about, how we have a little text chain going, like, who has this? How can I help this? How can I help strategize with this person? So they've been very supportive of the book and the frameworks. They're just really good client-focused realtors.
So do they use your framework even with their clients? Because I would
Yeah,
think it would be super successful in using that whole
yeah.
framework.
I would really love for agents to be able to use the frameworks and to gift the book so that their client can read the book and come up with their wheel. And let's try to make that not a flat tire. Let's try to fix that punctured area. That's a 2. And so if they want to gift a book to their clients as a thank you for Thanksgiving, or just like we're getting ready to go look, 4 days, read this book and give me the results so I know what houses to look at. I mean, I think it's a great framework to differentiate them, to show people that they're very client focused, not just trying to sell whatever home,
Yeah.
for the money. And then their clients will be happier because, you know, nobody wants a client who's like, oh yeah, I forgot to mention my father's probably going to move in with us in 2 to 3 years. Well, we don't have a guest on the main for him. That's an expensive mistake.
Oh, yeah. I would think this would be a great framework to use to be able to get truly, because nobody wants to buy a home and then figure out 2 or 3 years later that it wasn't the
That's
right
it.
thing for them. I
Yeah.
mean, that would be horrible. It's
Expensive, time
huge.
consuming,
Yeah.
and then
Especially here in Southern California, I
oh
have
my
to say,
goodness,
yeah,
millions. Yes.
you can't do that.
Expensive mistake. Yes.
Yeah.
And then time consuming. And, back in 23 and 24 and 22, when those interest rates were so low, people now can't afford the same house
Yeah.
that they once could afford. So you can be stuck in a home if you don't hit all the, think ahead a little bit to your next phase of life. Don't be stuck in the one you're coming from.
Yeah. So,
Mhm.
what do you think would be the biggest, let's say, limiting belief that you overcame, or that you think that you've seen that other people need to pay attention to, or what would you say is kind of almost your biggest learning moment about yourself going through this
Yeah.
process of life?
I would say that I wish I would go back and not sacrifice my happiness to
Mhm.
make other people happy,
Yeah.
because it never works out in the end. It's you become less joyful. Um, you are not working in your strengths, in my case, to where I could be helping other people and joyful about it and 5Xing my income
Mhm.
from the previous career where I wasn't even happy doing what I was doing.
Yeah, you were saying yes when you should have said no, and saying no
Yeah,
when
we
you
could
should
have
have said
hired
yes.
an accountant, paid them the salary that I cut back way back on just because it was a family business. Just to have I wanted a salary, but it certainly wasn't what I would have been paid, elsewhere. And had I just gone and been a realtor and 5X my income, we could have paid for five accountants or 10. Because, right? We could have paid for 10 accountants because I kind of cut my salary in half because it was a family business. And I was like, well, I'll just do it because someone needs to do it. But if we had just hired an accountant, I could have been doing what I'm doing now for 30 years.
So, as a lesson to people listening, pay attention to yourself.
Yes.
Yeah, and get the book when it comes out.
Hmm.
I'm going to say it again. It's called Live in Your Wheelhouse. It's going to come out, and I know by now it's out. So
Yeah.
look for Live in Your Wheelhouse. I will, when this comes out, I will have a link to the
Mm.
book so people can
Yes.
go and get it. I
Hmm.
usually put it through Barnes and Noble because I like
Sure.
that better than Amazon.
Sure.
Um, and lastly, what I ask my guests to share is their favorite quote, mantra, or positive affirmation.
So I have a beautiful quote from Rainier Marie Rilke, and it is, I'm so glad you're here. It helps me realize how beautiful my world is. And so I have it right here behind my podcasting studio desk. It was in my guest room, but now since I'm speaking with so many other people, it's just, I'm so thrilled with the conversations that I'm having, both with people like you and then also the people that we're helping maximize their potential.
Yeah.
And so that just makes me really happy.
Repeat it one more time because I
Sure.
love it.
I'm so glad you're here. It helps me realize how beautiful my world is.
I
So
love
that's the whole
that.
mates thing. We want to surround ourselves with people who help make our world beautiful.
And that includes friendships and
Spouses,
everything. Yeah.
partners.
And
Hmm.
that to me, because my whole focus is loving yourself unconditionally. And so going back to loving yourself, you will surround yourself with people that also respect and love you in the same
Oh,
way.
well, here's another way to look at it. I'm so glad you're here. I'm speaking to myself.
Yes, that's how I
I love
interpreted it.
that. Oh, I
Yeah.
love that. Oh, I
Yeah.
love that even more now.
That's why I was like, oh, I'm so glad you're here. In other words, your authentic
I'm
self is
finally
now aware.
here.
Yeah.
Yes, I love that. Oh my gosh, it's a whole new light to the saying. See
Oh,
again,
wonderful.
I'm focusing on other people, right?
Kim,
I'm gonna
it's about
that's about
you.
me right there.
Well, I want to thank you. Oh, how do people learn more about you? I'm going to
Oh, great.
have the link to the book and everything,
Yes.
but how can they get a hold of you? And I'd like to limit it to maybe one or two things, and then I'll put
Sure.
everything in the description.
Absolutely. So I think probably the best way is on the socials, and I'm everywhere as Kim, the initial E Costa, Kim E Costa. So
And it's
in
Costa, but I will,
Costa.
for those listening. Yeah. Wonderful. Well, thank you so much for taking the time to be on my podcast. I really appreciate it. And I love what you're doing and your message. And, you're proving too that just because you gave up an opportunity to be on the Oprah Winfrey Show and have her celebrate you, you are now celebrating yourself.
That's right.
And
And
that's
so
what
there was the
matters.
lesson. Yeah.
Yes.
It all
Yes.
came
And you're
together.
very successful doing it. So that is
Oh,
fabulous.
oh, well, thank you.
Yeah. Thanks everyone for listening to Ladies Who Leap, the podcast. Please like, subscribe, follow, comment. I would love to hear from you what you liked, and maybe if you have a story of a leap story that you'd like to share, please get a hold of me. I am loving doing this, and I love sharing great women's stories to inspire others. So have a great rest of the day. Thanks again, Kim. Thanks again for watching or listening to the Ladies Who Leap podcast. Have a great day.